Okay, so let's start with a kind of wild thought. What if one of the oldest, most foundational texts in the world isn't actually about the past? Today we're going to dive into a really fascinating framework that looks at the book of Genesis not as history, but as a blueprint for our collective future.
And this question, right here, this is the key that unlocks the whole thing. It's a challenge, really. It asks us to look at this ancient story we think we know and see something totally different, a dynamic, unfolding map of humanity's journey.
So the core idea here is, well, pretty radical. According to the analysis in Andrew Turtle's The Evolutionary Creation of History, we shouldn't be reading Genesis as just an account of how the world began. Instead, we should see it as a symbolic roadmap, a guide that actually maps the evolution of human consciousness and society itself.
So you've got these two views, right? On one hand, there's the way most of us think about it, a story about how things began, way back in the distant past. But then you have this new perspective, which sees Genesis as a living document. It suggests that the 6 days of creation aren't literal 24-hour days at all, but huge, symbolic epics in a process that's still going on. So, you're probably asking, how on earth do you get from a creation story to a map of the future? Well, the method is really specific. It involves a very detailed, line-by-line analysis that decodes the text through 3 distinct layers of meaning. First up is the literal layer. You have to start here. This is the foundation, right? It's analyzing the text for what it says on the surface, the creation of the physical world, the historical events being described.
The second layer is the metaphorical one. This is where it gets personal. This layer interprets the entire story as an allegory for our inner world. Basically, a map of an individual person's journey towards self-awareness and consciousness.
And finally, the third layer is the societal perspective. This is where we zoom all the way out. This lens views the narrative as a symbol for humanity's collective story, the rise of civilizations, cultures, and social structures, the big picture. And here's a perfect example of how these layers work together. Let's just take the very first verse. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Literally, that's the universe, the cosmos. Simple enough. Metaphorically, for the individual, it's that spark, the birth of your own consciousness. And from the societal view, it represents the dawn of human civilization itself. See how it works?
So when you apply this 3-layered analysis to the entire book of Genesis, something really striking starts to emerge. The days of creation suddenly stop being about the planet's formation. Instead, they look a lot like vast epochs of human and societal development.
Now, here's how this framework maps out our history. Day 1, which talks about separating light from darkness, is linked to the axial age. That's when rational thought really started to emerge from purely mythic thinking. Now, Day 2 is super interesting. In the text, Day 2 is all about creating a firmament to separate the waters above from the waters below. This framework maps that directly onto the Industrial Revolution, a period defined by the rise of the nation-state, which created all these new societal structures by separating people into classes, industries, and nations. And Day 3, well, that seems to be pointing towards our near future, an era of unification.
And that brings us to today, right now. According to this framework, humanity is living through the epoch of Day 2. Just think about what that means. If this is right, our current era of nation-states, borders, and division, it isn't the end of the story. It's just a transitional phase. It's the stage being set for a huge evolutionary leap.
Which brings us right to the edge of what's next. This whole analysis suggests we're standing on the threshold of Day 3, you and I, poised to step into a completely new stage of our collective human story.
So what does this new era even look like? Well, remember how Day 2 was all about separation? In Genesis, Day 3 is about gathering the waters into one place to let the dry land appear. This framework sees that as a powerful metaphor for moving away from all that fragmentation. It points to the emergence of a truly unified global society, a kind of planetary civilization driven by an expansion of our collective consciousness, where we start to integrate instead of divide.
And to put this into perspective, we're not just talking about another historical shift like the Renaissance or something. This transition into Day 3 is framed as one of only 6 major awakenings in all of human history. Each one of them fundamentally changes our entire understanding of reality.
And this all leads to the ultimate and maybe most profound implication of this whole idea. If the story of creation is actually still unfolding, if the book is still being written, what does that mean for our role in it?
It means our role completely changes. We're no longer just passive products of creation. We become active participants. We become, as the term here says, conscious co-creators. The idea is that humanity is waking up to its own power, to consciously shape the future, not just of our planet or our society, but of consciousness itself.
And really, that's the biggest takeaway. The story isn't finished. We're not just reading some pre-written script that was decided long ago. We are living it, and we are writing it, right now, with every choice we make. We are literally authoring the next chapter of this incredible evolutionary story.
So we end up right back where we started, with a question. If Genesis is a map of a creation that's still happening, that means the pen is now in our hands. The only question left is the one you see right there. What role will you play?